Jai Hind friends. I had received a query about the conventional comparison between India and China in case of war is there. As in many posts, I have already said that the many propaganda machinery of China. Chinese are always good at propaganda, like Global Times, CGTN, and not only these two media outlets, Nepalese media and even India media. There are people with vested interest who have been trying to promote just one picture that Indians will take a big thrashing if they come face to face with Chinese. This thinking is very defensive, and it does a great deal of harm when our strategic circle goes for the policy planning, means how to defend India. Now, uh, whatever point I'm going to put, it is based on multiple studies, and but the most prominent one is the very recent one. It was propounded by Donnell and Wolfras, who are from the Harvard Kennedy School. If you are keenly following the recent developments which have happened in Hot Spring, Pangang So, and the Shiok Galwan conference in Ladakh, so you will clearly know that this study has been doing rounds. So this was done in March 2020, and let me give you a caution that whatever deployment I will be discussing here, it is the permanent deployment of Indian Army. It has nothing to do with the recent mobilization. That is ultimately secret. You never know which corps, which division is moving where, which division or which brigade is moving where. So now, why this specific study is very important? Two reasons are there. First thing, majority of the studies conducted, they portray that Chinese have a clear advantage. Second thing, this Harvard University is a backyard of communist people. Okay, while I'm talking to you, just minutes before, a thread has been trending on Twitter, and not just that thread, there are, I can share 10 to 15 such articles where you will come to know that how China has been pumping money in Harvard University, and their professors have been caught red-handed by FBI for participating in Communist Party program and resorting to stealing in IPR. So, and if you are following this, then recently the Secretary of State, the Mike Pompeo, had warned Chinese against the IPR stealing. So that's another day. This research paper is coming from that backyard. So we cannot just dump it by saying that okay, this might be yet another propaganda of Indian state. So let me tell you, we are not good at that, and this is a reason to lament right now. Now, coming directly to the point, Indian Army facing Chinese, it's divided into three commands of Indian Army facing Chinese. Northern Command in the Jammu Kashmir Ladakh region, then in the uh, Central Command Uttarakhand, and then the Eastern Command in Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. First, I will talk about the deployments, as the source is the research paper's deployment chart, which has been cross-checked from open source. Okay, um, various other information which are available easily on internet. Okay, so we'll start with the Ladakh, the western sector. It's under the safety of that frontier with Northern Command, and in the Northern Command, the 14th Corps specifically looks after that, the Fire and Fury Corps. This corps has been assigned one infantry division, one mountain division, and the important point to note is that in last 4 to 5 years, an independent tank brigade, an independent armor brigade has been raised in Ladakh. So this is something very important. Divisions obviously have armored brigade, but having an independent armored brigade, what uh, what is present in the on internet, it says that it's T-72 Russian tanks are present there. It is again I'm repeating why it is important is that it is an independent armor brigade. Coming to the Central Command, it is having a mountain division there based in Bareilly, right? It is based in Bareilly, and as it is in the Central Command, so they can maneuver anywhere. They can go to counter the Chinese offensive in Uttarakhand or in Ladakh, or even in the far east, Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim also. So there we are having one mountain division. Coming to the eastern sector, where we are having Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim at the border. So there we are having 9 mountain divisions. Let me tell you, these 9 mountain divisions have been equally assigned to 3 corps. The third corps is having 3 mountain division, the fourth corps is having 3 mountain division, and the 33rd corps is having 3 mountain division. The 33rd corps is based in Siliguri, that chicken neck area, and the fourth corps is based in Tezpur, and the third corps is based, some sources say it's in Nagaland, some sources say it is in Assam. Paper says it is based in Nagaland. As per Nitin Gokhale, it is based in Assam. So 3 corps there defending India, having 3 mountain divisions each. Now, whatever the 9 mountain divisions in the eastern sector, Eastern Command, the 1 mountain division in the Central Command, and the 1 mountain division and 1 infantry division, which is there in the under the 14th Corps Northern Command. All these divisions, actually these are defensive formations to take the Chinese offensive face on when it comes. But at around I think 2013, there was standoff in Dalbeguldi, which I've heard a lot, and in Tepsang. So due to that, something was kept under the carpet. It was the Mountain Strike Corps, which was brought again by the Modi government, and now they are building a Mountain Strike Corps. It's the 17th Mountain Strike Corps. Not much is known about that in the public domain, but what is known, I will let you know. It's an offensive corps, right? Strike Corps. That's why it is known as Mountain Strike Corps. It is not a simple infantry division. It is mechanized infantry having armored personal carriers. Means the infantrymen, the troops will be covered by the armored vehicles. They will not come directly in the line of fire. So it is said that it's based in West Bengal, and this is the biggest trump card for us when we will go in war with China. As it is an infantry division, it is said that they are having 2 brigades, and it is not, we cannot say that it is something has been assigned to particular command or what. They can move to any front, whether in Ladakh or in Uttarakhand or in Arunachal or Sikkim, wherever the situation demand, because it is an offensive division, offensive element of Indian Army, the swing element, right? So this is the overall. And one more thing, we are having a BrahMos missile regiment somewhere in the Eastern Command. So if we categorize, then in the Western Command, 14 Corps, in the Northern Command, we are having, under the 14th Corps, we are having the 1 infantry division, 1 mountain division, and 1 independent tank brigade. In the Central Command, we are having mountain division Bareilly. In the Eastern Command, we are having 9 mountain divisions divided into 3 corps, which are based in Siliguri, Tezpur, and somewhere in the third one is somewhere in Assam and Nagaland. And we are having 1 mountain strike corps along with a BrahMos missile regiment. 1 division has around 15,000 to 18,000 troops. So this research paper says that Indians are having along this frontier 2.25 lakh troops. We're talking about the Chinese. The majority of our frontier with China, we have adjacent, we are having Xinjiang and Xinjiang province and Tibet province. Now the important thing about these 2 provinces is that internal disturbance is quite high here. It is operationally hot area, and in Xinjiang there is means Islamic radicalization is there, and not much is known. Chinese are heavily oppressing them to control that, Uyghur Muslims. So in the name of radicalization, so there, and in Tibet you already know that they have occupied it, so always there is rebellion attitude among Tibetans, and in the name of cultural revolution they have been oppressed a lot. So these 2 provinces are having huge internal security problems. This is the reason the Chinese, which previously brought these 2 provinces under the Western military command, have now assigned a separate military district to them. It is known as Tibet Military District and the Xinjiang Military District. In Tibet Military District, just 40,000 troops are stationed right now. 40,000 troops. What this research paper says. And in Xinjiang, around 70,000 troops are stationed. And the Western Military Command, it's very. See, Xinjiang and Tibet, they are not small province, right? They go deep into the north. They protrude deep into the north. And beyond that is the Western Military Command. I just can't recall the name of the province. It's something Shanxi. I'm not exactly able to recall that, but it's quite deep inside their territory. So 40,000 in Tibet, 70,000 in Xinjiang, and then 90,000 Western Military Command, amounts to nearly 2 lakh. So in a way we can say that okay, numerical parity is maintained. Now coming to the unappreciated advantages of India. See, whenever you will talk to general public discourse or strategic circle, what they will say is that, see, Chinese are having good infrastructure, no doubt, they are having good infrastructure. Now, let me tell you, Indians are also catching up now. Before we know that previous regime was not that serious about this thing. They even were not thinking about reactivating the Tolerant Begoli Advanced Landing Ground. I will talk about that in the next video. So, what an advanced landing ground is. So, but this regime, after what happened in Dolam and what happened in the after that in Wuhan, China is not following the Wuhan spirit. So now we have taken this challenge, and many ocean analysts, whether it's Abhijit Iyer or Retresfa or Rohit Vats, they have clearly said this thing that the satellite imageries clearly show that Indians are not backing off. They are going on with humongous infrastructure development. The recent one, due to which conflict is going on, is the DSDBO road. You can easily find that on the Google map. Not only this, just yesterday itself, Tetrisfa, the ocean analyst, had shared that at around the Shok Galwan conference, where many analysts they are claiming that Chinese have occupied the heights. At that point itself, the Indians have built a bridge which is sufficient enough to even move armor vehicles over there, okay, tanks even over there. So this is very important thing. The overall point is that yeah, we are lagging behind, but we are rapidly building this up. We are not backing off. We need to remember that while our 14th Corps commander was talking there in the near the Chushul Moldo checkpoint, we were continuing with this huge this bridge infrastructure. Not only this, many other places infrastructures are going on. You might have read that how laborers are being mobilized there. So even though Chinese are having, we are building this up. Now, what people will not tell you is that, and what this research paper categorically points out is that along the theater, if we talk about all the modern divisions, 14th Corps in the Northern Command, it is not involved in counterinsurgency operations. 15th Corps is handling that. Let it be very clear. And in the modern division based in Bareilly, it has nothing to do with internal security operations. They are not involved in internal security duties like 14th Corps. And even in East, whether it is 3rd Corps, 4th Corps, or it is 33rd Corps. 33rd Corps based in Siliguri is obviously beyond any doubt not involved in any internal security operations. 3rd and 4th Corps is not involved, but I will not say that with 100% surety because it is a slightly disturbed area. But the thing is, even if their involvement is there, it is not 100%. It's very, we can say, superficial involvement, because already in those areas we are having Assam Rifles, paramilitary force which is manned by army officers, and they are assisting the local administration, the local state police force, and the central reserve police force in maintaining order there. So all in all, Indian forces are forwardly deployed, and they are not diverting their attention in internal security operations. They are training themselves day in and day out for only one single challenge, that is the Chinese challenge. But this is not the case with China. Whether it is the Xinjiang military district or the Tibet military district, most of them, the troops are involved in internal security operations. So what will happen is that when there is skirmish, they will have to mobilize themselves, whether they are in Xinjiang military district or in the Tibet military district or in the further deep in their area, Western Military District, they have to mobilize it. Now, having said that, mobilization, recently a video was posted by Global Times. It was a really propaganda video because, see, high altitude warfare has its own challenges, and the biggest challenge with the high altitude warfare is there is a term called acclimatization. It takes around 14 to 20 days. Moving your equipments, a soldier who is involved in security operations at not that high altitude, moving them rapidly within 24 hours to the frontier areas where the warfare is completely high altitude, it is not that simply mobilization matters. Your the personals, your armed forces, people should be ready, they should be acclimatized. So mere mobilization is different from readiness. Operational readiness is something different. So here also Indians are having advantage. They are having good infrastructure, Chinese, so they can mobilize. But mobilization will also take some time, and Indians are already forwardly deployed. Whereas the Chinese, again, one problem is more is there that they will have to take some time for acclimatization. Indians are already there at the high altitude. They have already dug in deep with their defenses, forever ready. The troops who are posted forward in the forward area, they are already acclimatized. So this is the very important unconventional, very important advantage in the conventional domain which India is having, which is really highly underappreciated. So guys, at the end note, I will say that I am not a national security expert. I am providing caution here. I am just enthusiast, so I keep on tracking all these things. So whatever I am telling you is from a research paper or my own opinion. So I'm again saying that I am not an expert, just an amateur who is interested in all these things. Okay, so I think guys, this might be helpful for you. I will come up with another video where we'll talk about Indian Air Force advantages with the vis-a-vis the unappreciated advantage of Indian Air Force vis-a-vis the PLA, People's Liberation Army Air Force. We will not go beyond that to the nuclear theater, the nuclear domain, nuclear warfare domain. Okay, we will limit ourselves to the conventional domain. So thank you. Queries will be appreciated.